This man was the most lethal agent on the planet, but he made the biggest mistake of his life by saving a little girl his organization wanted dead, and trust me, you're going to want to see the brutal revenge this betrayal unleashes. And 17 years later, Nightshade opens his eyes in a brand new body. Now, as a simple high schooler, he discovers that little girl is still alive, but she was kidnapped by the very group that destroyed his past. This time, they'll learn a hard lesson: you never give certain monsters a second chance. It all starts in the ruins of Eastern Europe, where we see our injured protagonist sitting among the rubble, holding his weapon at the limit of his strength. His torn, bloody clothes reveal a severe wound to his chest. The gun in his hand, amid the wreckage, proves just how brutal the battle was. In that moment, he remembers the little girl begging him to hold on, but he just tells her to run and forget him. Devastated, the girl clings to her stuffed animal, refusing to leave. Glaring, he shouts at her to run, so she doesn't suffer his same fate. She turns to flee, though she's still incredibly hesitant. Tears stream down her face as she finally listens, running far away and leaving him alone in the destruction. Suddenly, our main character tenses up at a sound. Pay close attention here, because someone is approaching. Footsteps echo through the area as a mysterious silhouette approaches. It is a man in a suit and overcoat, walking with his hands in his pockets. Instantly, we see he's a gray-haired man with several bodyguards. The overcoated man calls the protagonist by his codename, Nightshade, remarking that the rumors were true. Nightshade is an absolute beast. The villain seems impressed he managed to do all this alone. Next, the scene reveals the street packed with fallen enemies who were completely wiped out by our protagonist. Seeing this chaos, the antagonist declares it unforgivable, mocking how someone so strong chose to die. For a silly sentimental whim, the gray-haired man aims his weapon directly at him and asks if he has any final words. With a smile, our protagonist seemingly accepts his fate in absolute silence. The enemy gets the message and says they'll meet in the next life, preparing to finish him off at close range. The scene suddenly shifts to a warehouse where a muscular thug is furiously screaming at some teenagers. The big guy asks if they think they can just quit the job. One boy fearfully replies that nobody warned them about the slaughter. Another guy, smoking, says they were only supposed to drive and doesn't get the issue. Terrified, the teens fall to their knees begging for mercy. One screams that no job is simple during an execution. The brute loses his mind completely and slams a golf club hard against the floor. I know what you're thinking, but to these thugs, as long as someone pays, they'll deliver anything. He even threatens the redhead with a knife, warning he'll quiet him forever if he keeps talking. Before he can strike, someone grabs his hand as a youth begs him to stop. The big guy is confused by the sudden boldness of this kid who was silent before. Glaring, Keys steps up, ready for anything. He asks to let his older friend go, who instantly calls him insane for accepting such a job. Confident, Key says everything will be fine, since a true professional won't target innocent people for no reason. Though he immediately doubts his own words. As night falls, we're taken to a room under siege. A man falls, sniped by a mystery shooter. One of his accomplices screams they're being ambushed. Before he can even finish warning them, he's shot dead too. The three remaining hitmen are horrified. Another drops dead, leaving the survivors wondering if the bullet literally traveled right through the walls. From outside, a cold voice warns them that drywall won't stop 50 caliber rounds. Utterly petrified, they look at the shattered glass door where the shots came from. In that instant, the gray-haired assassin bursts in, gun drawn, kicking a table at them and yelling to never underestimate a real professional. Using the table as an impenetrable shield, the mercenary blocks the barrage of enemy gunfire. The three men aim to return fire, but the gray-haired veteran is much faster, using bullet ricochets to instantly neutralize them. With everyone defeated, he wonders how anyone predicted his moves. Next, he aims at the last survivor while complaining about the disgusting smell the syndicate always leaves. After clearing the zone, the killer holsters his gun. Stick with me, because we're about to see some serious action next time. Get ready, because you and I are about to see how a luxury room ends up totally trashed after a wild job. Our young driver, Kay, peeks inside and completely freezes in pure terror. Suddenly, the agent spins around to face him, and the poor kid collapses to the ground in total panic. Hands up, Kay desperately begs for mercy, saying he was only hired for a delivery. The gray-haired man asks if Dahlia sent him, figuring he is just a driver. Kay nods with a shaky smile, trying to hide his utter dread while adjusting his cap. With that settled, they hit the dark city streets together, taking the kid slams his foot on the gas, sending the car roaring forward. Inside the vehicle, the vibe turns thick and heavy as they ride in total silence. Peering through the rearview mirror, Kay watches his passenger, and the tension in the air just keeps building. The gray-haired man catches his eye and asks what is up, but Kay plays it off like it is nothing. In his head, though, Kay realizes how terrifying the aura of a professional hitman truly is. Truth is, the white-haired man is just sizing him up with a cold, calculating glare. Meanwhile, they continue their cold dame drive in that incredibly awkward silence. Now pay attention, because our driver decides to break the ice with a seriously dark question. He asks about what went down on the first floor, bringing up the women and children he saw back there. Kay asks if they were part of the hit, too. The agent coldly says no, but they would have screamed, leaving Kay stunned. He casually explains that cleaners mop up everything, so getting rid of witnesses is no big deal. With a nervous chuckle, Kay confirms the rumors are true. This guy is ruthless. The driver then casually drops a highly specific name, Funeral Flowers, instantly catching the mercenary's attention. Shocked, the gray-haired man demands to know how he knows that secret, and Kay replies that his boss Dahlia told him. It turns out they are an elite assassin group using flower code names. The white-haired killer grumbles that his boss runs her mouth too much about classified business, but the kid is completely unfazed, continuing to chat with his deadly passenger. He points out the scar on the man's face and asks if a blade did that. Teasingly, Kay says it proves even elite killers bleed like anyone else. The mercenary stays quiet, only shooting him a heavy, menacing stare. Kay's playful expression instantly drops, realizing that he finally crossed the line. You and I are about to hear a dark story about another deadly member. He talks about a guy codenamed Nightshade, a highly toxic flower that perfectly matched his lethal nature. That man was Death Incarnate, a rogue threat who defied the organization's rules just to protect some little girl. And here is the kicker: the white-haired killer boasts that he executed Nightshade himself. The kid listens closely, but casually replies with a cold, "Who cares?" showing absolutely zero fear. Suddenly, the killer points his gun right at Kay's head, declaring that this classified secret is going to the grave with him. Shocked, the young driver stammers, asking what he is talking about. With his finger on the trigger, the gray-haired man prepares to blow the driver's brains out. But first, he admits he noticed Kay's tactical counter-surveillance, driving to see if they were being tailed. He also adds that despite his great acting, the kid is not actually scared, because nervous sweat smells entirely different. True panic has a very distinct scent, but the agent detects absolutely none of it, realizing Kay is dead calm. Demandingly, he wants to know who he really is and where he came from. Slowly, our protagonist's hands shift on the steering wheel. Then, in a sudden move, he throws his hands up, catching the assassin off guard. The gray-haired man is momentarily baffled by his target's unexpected move. At that exact second, Kay slams gas pedal down, sending the car screaming down the highway. Spinning out of control, the vehicle swerves straight into the guardrail. In the rearview mirror, we see our main character land a devastating punch right to the passenger's face. The killer is left reeling from the shocking move and sudden counterattack. A split second later, the car crashes violently against the highway guardrail. The sheer impact launches the gray-haired assassin straight out of the moving vehicle. Even so, he lands on his feet with incredible agility, recovering instantly. Right then, the driver's cap flies off, directly into his face. That is when our protagonist lunges forward, revealing his true self. With eyes glowing red, he slashes with a dagger, fully unleashed. The hitman reacts instantly, raising his gun, stunned by his opponent's incredible speed. Kay throws his deadly weapon with insane precision right at the mercenary, who squeezes the trigger, but the gun jams at the absolute worst moment. Frustrated, the white-haired killer barely dodges the lethal blade. A close-up shows the weapon's tip jammed right into the trigger guard with surgical precision. Now, these two rivals face off on the open highway, and trust me, you and I cannot miss what happens next. Get ready, because you and I are going to see how that Desert Eagle's cylinder becomes a fragile weakness. The scene shows the exact moment the blade perfectly strikes the side of the weapon. The gray-haired man is shocked that he hit that spot in a split second. Furious, he screams not to underestimate him. Suddenly, he pulls a deadly karambit knife from his sleeve, gearing up for close-quarters combat. In response, our hero prepares to fight using only his bare hands. Both charge into battle immediately. The boy stops the blade with his hands. Feeling his own hand go numb, the gray-haired man realizes his nerves are damaged. The strike tore through his nerves. Seizing this opening, our protagonist dodges and prepares a lightning-fast counterattack. Instantly, he lands a devastating punch right to his enemy's jaw. The impact is so brutal that the mercenary staggers back, completely dazed. Without letting him recover, the young man slams him into the ground immediately. Flat on the ground in pain, the agent realizes these strikes were not just brute force. He quickly understands that every single hit was slowly destroying his nervous system. The effect was identical to deadly nightshade toxin. Now, watch closely. Releasing a dark aura, our hero corners his fallen enemy without giving him any room to breathe. The gray-haired guy asks what the hell he is, and the boy calls him slow and obsessed with Sen. Hearing that nickname, the mercenary is shocked, since only one person ever called him that. Smiling, the boy asks if he finally gets it, telling him it has been a long time. Terrified, the man refuses to believe it, calling it impossible. The young man then calls him a coward for boasting about killing him, when he actually just showed up at the very end. He points out that the assassin only arrived to finish him off when he was already weak, but the enemy insists that he definitely died. Our hero confirms he did die, but with a wild look, he adds that, somehow, he managed to return. Confused, the gray-haired man asks what that even means, calling it complete and utter nonsense. He swears something like that could never happen. Right then, the blade on the ground begins floating toward our protagonist. And you know what the best part is? With a serious look, he reclaims his weapon, while the villain asks if he wants revenge. But the young man answers that there is more to it. In that moment, he remembers the little girl's stuffed rabbit. That little girl he tried to save. With pure rage, he swears he will take back what those bastards stole from him. To do that, he plans to completely destroy the garden organization. Shocked, the mercenary asks if he truly believes he can take down the entire syndicate. Even defeated, he warns him that agents just as dangerous still remain in the garden. Before dying, the man assures him that he will not be able to change a single thing all on his own. Without a shred of mercy, the boy delivers the final blow to his former companion from the organization. With his enemy defeated, he silently watches the falling rose petals. With a cold, determined gaze, he tells the bastard to watch everything from the underworld. Suddenly, we cut to a room where dark silhouettes are arguing. A blonde woman approaches the man seated on the throne, addressing him by the name of Dahlia. The blindfolded leader reveals that one of their top elite agents has been taken out instantly. She looks extremely shocked and serious. Then, the boss asks her if she remembers a former member. He is referring to the benefactor who saved her during the Civil War. Closing her eyes, the woman begins to remember. While the leader confesses that he eliminated him himself, the others wonder if the police were involved. Or maybe it was the United States government. Others doubt if a third party could defeat such a powerful mercenary. The leader, named Dahlia, analyzes the situation with an incredibly serious face. He taps his fingers on the armrest, annoyed by the trouble in his new territory. Thus, he concludes that a troublesome weed is growing in his garden. Because of this, Dahlia orders the blonde to alert the other funeral flowers, giving them a 1-month deadline. The mission must succeed. His final command is to tear that weed out by the roots, leaving absolutely no trace. The scene shifts to a memory of our protagonist, surrounded by flames. In his inner monologue, he tells us that, for as long as he can remember, he lived alone, abandoned on the battlefield. He reveals he never even knew his parents' faces. He was just a war orphan, without family or a future. Until one day, someone mysterious appeared before him to change his fate forever. Holding a gun, that man gave him 2 options: die in that very alleyway, or become an agent to fight for his survival in this brutal, unforgiving world. And that is how we begin this journey together. Without hesitation, the boy grabbed the gear to fight for his life. Let's dive in and see how he chose that second option just to survive, while a cold voice echoes in his mind, warning him that hesitation means death. Strike or fall. Our main character remembers his brutal training, shooting down every single target with cold, lethal precision. His instructor screamed at him to move and dodge. That organization, called the Garden, was no ordinary mercenary syndicate. They called themselves Protectors of World Order, fighting for a supposedly noble cause while operating deep within the darkest shadows. They targeted corrupt dictators ruining the planet, organized crime bosses, dangerous terrorists, and ruthless mobsters. Eliminating these monsters, using deadly assassins, whom they called funeral flowers, supposedly prevented entire wars. They believed they saved countless lives through these necessary sacrifices, and our boy just obeyed orders like a robot. He turned into a cold machine, executing their version of justice, his daily routine running with absolute clockwork precision. Until one fateful mission changed everything, and his perfect world began to completely crumble right before his eyes. After 20 years of loyal service to the Garden, he disobeyed a direct order for the very first time in his life. Now, pay attention here, because everything changed over a little girl who made him question his loyalty and bloody purpose. He remembers the burning pain of nerve gas shutting down his body, handing her a crucial package on the brink of death. He begs her to run and escape, pleading through blurry vision for her to change her name and start over somewhere far away. Our protagonist wonders why he risked his own life for something so absurd. But then, the unexpected happens. The little girl tears a piece of her own dress and hands it over, her eyes burning with absolute determination. She swears she will never leave him behind, asking through a flood of tears how she can save him from his fate. In that highly desperate moment, he finally understands exactly what he must do to protect her from any imminent danger. It was the eyes of that little girl that pulled him from his dark path, making him switch sides forever. The scene shifts to an abandoned cabin, where he slowly recovers, surrounded by bottles of eye drops. Those drops contain sulfuric acid and atropine, an extreme combination capable of neutralizing the deadly nerve gas. They only had 20 minutes to act, and, miraculously, that little girl pulled off what seemed like an impossible mission. I know what you're thinking. This is unreal. She risked everything on her own, searching for those bottles to save her guardian. Enemies were lurking around every single corner, but her only thought was keeping her soul protector alive. As he recovers, he tells her to rest, then asks if she regrets throwing away her chance to escape. She replies with absolute confidence that she doesn't need to run, knowing full well he will always protect her. He tries to remind her that he's just a cold-blooded mercenary, not her father or legal guardian. The girl just pouts in annoyance. His past self would have never allowed this kind of emotional weakness. Even so, he pats her head, thinking there's absolutely nothing worse than owing a favor to a child. So he promises to look after her until she is free, and she smiles, sealing their first major pact. Suddenly, the scene shifts dramatically as a loud voice screams at our protagonist to wake up immediately. A heavy blow knocks him out of bed completely confused, waking up startled 17 years after his apparent defeat. His new sister, Masaki, furiously screams that he'll be late for school since it's already 7:30. He quickly apologizes while trying to process that he now has to live the bizarre routine of an ordinary student. Misaki. Look at this mystery with me. The boy hit his head and came home, smelling like smoke last night. He remembers burning the car so clearly to erase the evidence, and while his sister suspects he's up to no good, he panics. Nervous, he lies about being at a barbecue until midnight, but she immediately points out that he hates vegetables, so he lies that his taste changed after the crash, using some cheap, scientific excuse about how his brain got rewired. She stays quiet, staring at him with a deeply suspicious look. Done arguing, she orders him to come down for breakfast before it gets cold. As soon as she leaves, he sighs in relief, thinking his sister is way too sharp. Externally, he reflects that his life seems completely normal now, but looking at his new family portrait, he admits nothing feels real. He wonders why his consciousness from 17 years ago ended up in this body, picking up the frame to take a closer look at Key's family, realizing he didn't just hijack the body. Key's memories are alive inside him. It all started with a fall 10 days ago, leaving you and me wondering what happens next. Get ready, because we are about to watch how a sudden head injury triggers memories of his past life right when his laptop rings. Hearing that alert, he pushes his doubts aside because right now, he has a much bigger problem to deal with. With a cold, laser-focused look, he sits at his desk, ready to execute the next phase of his master plan. He slips his headphones on and starts typing, while on the other end, his contact confirms the analysis is complete. In that moment, he remembers the data chip he snatched from Dahlia post-fight, securing the device before wiping the evidence. Hidden deep inside that agent's pocket, he discovered something unexpected, an item he never imagined finding in a place like that. An antique pocket watch, hiding a data chip. Our main character praises his hacker contact for working so incredibly fast. The hacker admits he used every resource, confessing that getting a call after 10 years gave him a massive heart attack. But knowing Nightshade is back and took down Dahlia, all doubts vanish. Still, before handing over the data, he needs something. The ally demands some answers, bringing up how 17 years ago he disobeyed a direct execution order and fell off the grid. He wants to know how the legendary mercenary is still breathing and walking around freely after all this time. And, more importantly, why pick a fight with the organization again? The contact asks if this is all for the girl. He means Lilia. He reveals that after his defeat, the Garden Syndicate took the little girl to raise her themselves. Now, watch closely here, because for 17 years they kept her locked away like a prize trophy for the Syndicate to exhibit. Behind closed doors, she had zero freedom and lived like a prisoner. The hacker even mentions rumors of terrible treatment. He figures that the only reason for this epic return is to finally rescue his precious Lilia from the garden. Feeling bittersweet, our main character remembers the promise he made to that little girl. Her innocent smile is his only motivation. It pushes him forward. The hacker wonders why a heartless machine would do this, but he is suddenly cut off. Nightshade coldly reminds him of the golden rule, never stick your nose in other people's business, terrifying the hacker. Feeling the threat, the hacker quickly agrees to send the gathered intelligence. He reveals the chip holds something extremely valuable. It's a hit list of Dahlia's next targets, and one of those names belongs to a defenseless high school girl. With data in hand, he prepares to move. Cut to a prestigious girls' academy where students are walking around happily. St. Anne Girls' Academy is an elite school reserved exclusively for daughters of the wealthiest families in the nation. A gorgeous girl with long flowing hair walks across the courtyard, admired by classmates who cheer and wave at her. They call out to Shiduan, wishing her a great day. She smiles sweetly, waving back and telling them to stay safe. They completely melt over her extreme kindness. You and I can easily see how insanely popular this young Shiden really is. Her peers absolutely adore her. Meanwhile, across the street, our main character watches her closely while holding his phone. He carefully reviews the file of Akari Shidu, the sole heiress of a powerful, highly respected criminal syndicate's late leader. Her father was the third boss of the organization, leaving behind a massive legacy of absolute power and deep respect. And that is the exact reason why the damn Garden Syndicate wants to eliminate her at all costs right now. Our protagonist reflects that, right now, he is just a simple student going up against a massive global crime syndicate. We are talking enemies who control political elites worldwide, backed by deadly agents who possess terrifying, superhuman abilities. Because of that, he will use this girl's imminent danger as the perfect trigger to launch his grand plan. Amidst flames, the organization's symbol burns, showing his resolve to use this golden chance to build a rock-solid foundation. A base he will use to destroy the garden completely, while still watching Ari from across the street. He finds it incredibly ironic and funny that a mobster's daughter is studying in such a strict, highly refined academy. With a mocking smirk, he slowly approaches the young girl's bodyguard, actively provoking him to grab his attention. He mockingly calls him a guardian from behind. The man spins around, visibly irritated, and delivers a sharp warning. He warns him that their brutal world is no place for rookies, and an unarmed brat would get eaten alive. But our main character responds with a fierce, challenging look, announcing his return before another man steps in to stop them. The newcomer demands to know who he is working for and why he is stalking the lady, but our hero answers calmly. He explains he was actually looking for them, not her. Uninterested in excuses, the bodyguard prepares to fight. Clenching his fists, he steps forward threateningly, swearing to beat the truth out of him before launching a brutal kick. But our hero dodges the attack effortlessly, instantly recognizing from his past combat experience that this guy is a boxer. Absolutely wild! Make sure you stay with me to see if our hero can dodge this fierce flurry in the next video. Alright, you and I are about to watch how this guy completely humiliates everyone. The guard misses, hurls insults, and goes for a sweep, but our young lead steps back with unbelievable agility. Absolutely furious, the bodyguard screams at him to stop playing around and throws a straight punch. But our main character catches the fist with just one hand, stopping the attack dead. With a lightning-fast move, he locks the guard's arm to set up his counter. Right after, he grabs him by the throat with his other hand. cutting off his breath. The man completely freezes up at the insane power and technique of this high school student. Suddenly, with a single motion, the boy slams him hard against the concrete, knocking him out cold. Then, he walks over slowly and asks him to just chill out, making it clear he is not an enemy. The bodyguard is utterly dazed, totally unable to process this shocking turn of events. Suddenly, a commanding voice screams at them to stop right now. Pinned to the floor, the guard is stunned to see the young heiress standing there. Akari walks up to them with confident steps and an incredibly intense glare. She glares daggers at our main character and demands he release Kitajiri right this second. He secretly smiles, thinking that this girl has got some real guts. He agrees to let him go under one condition: she must listen to what he has to say. He invites her to have some tea and talk. Now, pay attention here because this choice will change absolutely everything. Akari closes her eyes to weigh her options. Making her choice, she orders him to follow and leads him somewhere much more private. They walk together down a narrow alleyway until they reach a hidden spot. The sign reveals the name of the place, a cafe bar called Savannah. Inside, he praises the vibe, but notes it doesn't seem like the best place for a lady. Annoyed, the bodyguard spits out an insult, but Akari cuts him off and demands he get straight to the point. She grabs her teacup, preparing to hear what this complete stranger has to offer. Akari directly asks why he approached her and what it is he really wants from her. The boy reveals that she is not his target, but rather the assassin who is hunting her down. He explains that she probably knows why she is a target, and that not even her guard can save her from the funeral flowers. The young woman is stunned to hear the name of that legendary syndicate. He explains that their elite agents could wipe out an entire mafia army with ease. Suspicious and highly serious, Akari stares closely at the boy, trying to process this heavy information. She asks him who he is and what exactly he knows about everything going on. Our protagonist stares back with an intriguing, mysterious calm. He then declares that he isn't her ally, but rather the enemy of her enemy. And trust me, with that smirk, he vows to crush the syndicate. Infuriated, the bodyguard jumps up to protest, but he is instantly silenced. With a threatening glare, the boy warns him that he wouldn't do that. His eyes glow, deep red, and a terrifying aura paralyzes the guard completely. He is left speechless, unable to move under such a crushing, heavy pressure. He sits back down, realizing how incredibly dangerous this young man actually is. Still having doubts, Akari demands to know why she should even trust him. The boy reveals that the syndicate recently wiped out 3 executives in Yokohama. The bodyguard shivers, since that major incident was never reported on the news. He explains that there was a complete media blackout, the targets were killed with a Desert Eagle, and the killer was an elite agent with the codename Dahlia. Kitajiri panics and demands to know how he has access to such highly classified secrets. The protagonist tosses Dahlia's weapon onto the table and reveals he was the one who took him out. Then, he suggests they check the ballistics through their police contacts, adding that he also cleaned up the crime scene and their cleaners. The bodyguard directly accuses him of being the cold-blooded killer behind the dark fate of those 3 syndicate executives. With brutal sarcasm, the boy asks if they really think he would pull off a stunt like that, just for Akari. She widens her eyes as she finally understands the reality of the situation. Making a move, she chooses to trust his story, leaving Kitajiri completely speechless. She then orders the car prepped to head back to the estate immediately. Hesitant, the guard agrees to obey, and they head out to the Shida residence. Upon arrival, Akari and her protector wait in a room where the tension is incredibly thick. Katajiri strongly objects to letting such a highly suspicious guy inside the house. Just then, the boy walks in, sarcastically praising the sheer size of the mafia estate. With a smug grin, he asks if the tricolor pottery in the foyer is actually real. Akari confirms it, while the guard roars in anger, demanding to know who let him wander around so freely. Ignoring him completely, our main character scans the entire security network in a blink. He spots the guards patrolling the gardens and the main gate. He detects the cameras and even the technicians sitting in the surveillance room. Katajiri is stunned by how insanely fast he mapped out their defenses. The boy points out that Akari's bulletproof vest is basically just a lucky charm. She is shocked by his accuracy, and you and I have to see what's next. Get ready, because you and I are diving into a wild story. He warns them these enemies are no joke and everyone must evacuate from the house. In a dark, damp place, a rat squeaks before getting crushed under a high heel. A mysterious shadow walks with elegant, firm steps through the darkness. A woman in traditional clothes radiating a heavy, suffocating aura. With a twisted smile, she unsheathes her blade, ready to hunt. Meanwhile, our main character repeats his urgent warning to evacuate everyone immediately for their own safety. But the guard demands to know why they should obey a complete stranger. The young man warns them that nobody can survive against the funeral flowers, and they will only throw away their lives. Katajiri grabs him by the collar, yelling that they will do anything to protect their boss. But Akari steps in and orders her bodyguard to do exactly what the boy says. With a soft but firm smile, she tells him to comply. Though reluctant, the guard agrees and leaves to carry out her orders. Meanwhile, outside, the other men question this crazy decision, but Katajiri silences them. He then informs Akari that he has sent everyone home safely. Despite that, he chooses to stay and fight alone, proving his deep loyalty to the young heiress. Our main character is surprised by her cooperativeness and asks why she trusts him. Akari explains that, even without knowing who the funeral flowers are, she knew her guards stood no chance. To fight true professionals, you need a professional. The boy asks what makes her think he is an operative like them. She answers with absolute confidence. Now, pay attention, because she has crossed paths with a real assassin before. She says that the boy's gaze when subduing Katajiri was identical, eyes that look neither at the past nor the future, but only toward the present. The look of a predator completely locked onto the prey right in front of it. Blushing slightly, she admits his eyes were different from that cold, mechanical stare of someone who takes lives without feeling a thing. Instead, she felt a burning heat in his gaze that deeply intrigues her. A massive hatred coupled with a deep obsession to achieve his goal at any cost. A passion so intense it sparked a strange, magnetic connection between them, which is exactly why she chooses to trust him for protection. Our main character understands her reasoning completely and accepts this unexpected alliance. Then, he asks about that deadly operative she mentioned earlier. Akari reveals she witnessed firsthand how her father, leader of the Cheetah Group, met his tragic end. Curious, the youth asks what the mercenary looked like. She describes her as an elegant old lady with a kind smile. That woman appeared before her father as if she were an old friend visiting. But in a split second, everything twisted into a terrifying nightmare. Wearing that exact same smile, she revealed her true, murderous intentions. Moving at superhuman speed, she instantly wiped out every single one of her father's personal bodyguards. Shocked by the description, our main character interrupts the girl to ask one crucial, chilling question. And you know what the craziest part is? He asks if her weapon had a red spider lily engraving. Startled, she asks how he knows. With pure fury burning in his eyes, he immediately recognizes that deadly killer. He cannot believe she is still active after so many years. Suddenly, he winces in pain, sensing something off. Akari notices his alarming reaction and asks in fear what is wrong. Struggling to breathe, he groans from the pain. Right then, the old mercenary appears before them, with a sinister smirk crumpled right beside her lies. A heavily wounded Katajuri. The woman remarks that this entire mansion feels like a spiderweb packed with traps. She says she can spot traces of defenses everywhere. Then, she violently demands Katajuri to tell her who else is hiding on the property. With a sadistic grin, she draws her razor-sharp needles, ready to play a lethal game of plucking petals. The mercenary throws her projectiles, making the guards scream as they strike. She tries to force him to talk, but Katajuri bravely resists, refusing to betray his allies. All of a sudden, Akari swings her sword to defend her bodyguard. With a furious look, the young girl displays her impressive skill and immense resolve. The veteran assassin recognizes her as that same scared little girl from years ago. Bleeding out, Katajuri screams for his boss to fall back immediately. However, the old woman easily blocks Akari's attack. Deflecting the sword using only her needles, she displays a truly terrifying level of skill and precision. Akari despairs as she fails to land a single scratch. Mocking her coldly, the old woman says this makes her hunt much easier. In a blink, she moves like lightning, striking Katajuri again as he desperately tries to shield the young heiress. Trust me, you and I are going to want more after remembering that little girl who watched from the shadows. All right, you and I are about to witness an epic showdown. She glares maliciously, mocking her for inheriting her father's twisted eyes. Calling those eyes delicious, the old mercenary suddenly senses a strange presence, spins around, and freezes in sheer disbelief. Stunned by what she sees, she leaves an opening. Akari seizes the chance, launching a lightning-fast slash with her blade. But the hag dodges effortlessly, preparing a counter. Akari and Katagiri can only watch in total, hopeless despair, completely powerless to stop her. That's when our main character steps in, complaining about the absolute mess they made. Sighing, he wishes Akari would just act like a sheltered lady. Then, with his eyes glowing a deep crimson, he glares at the mercenary, ready to clash. The old hag readies herself, drawing both her deadly needles and her sword. Dark energy surges through her blade as she plots her strike. The boy locks eyes with his opponent, his gaze cold and analytical, completely fearless. He walks forward slowly, radiating a heavy aura of absolute confidence. The two pros size each other up, ready for a duel that will decide everyone's fate. Nearby, Akari and Katagiri watch anxiously, completely overwhelmed by the killer's pressure. She prepares to strike, while our main character waits calmly. Watching him closely, the old hag immediately realizes this kid is no amateur. He knows real combat. His stance uses real martial arts designed to disarm swordsmen, and the logic behind it is brutally simple. No one blocks a blade barehanded. One slice to the arm's arteries, and it's game over. So, watch closely right here. He intentionally drops his guard to bait her into a deadly trap. Luring her to strike his neck or chest, he waits. The moment she lunges, he triggers a devastating counter. The mercenary knows the theory is basic, but executing it? That takes insane, suicidal courage against a sharp blade. Realizing he's aiming for a counter-strike, she tenses up and decides to proceed with extreme caution. Suddenly, the old woman gasps at his sheer audacity. He throws his cap right at her face as a distraction and rushes in. Slipping past her weapon with insane speed, he slides in to land a heavy blow. Both move at a breakneck pace, trading lethal blows in a blur. The boy admits He honestly thought that cheap trick would finish her. She calls him a cocky brat for dare launching the first strike. But then, she freezes in shock, realizing he struck her perineal nerve. Our main character casually mentions, "It's been ages since he fought a silent master." That specific nerve is a vital pressure point you and I both know that completely paralyzes movement. He smirks, calling her a know-it-all hag, which totally sets her off. Furious, she claims he reminds her of someone incredibly annoying. Her mind drifts back 20 years ago, to her days as a combat instructor. In her memories, we see her teaching a young boy how to handle a sword, explaining that true swordplay isn't about brute force, but flow. The blade must glide naturally with the action. And that little kid from her memories? That's our main character in his past life, learning directly from her. Sick of being underestimated, she decides to teach him a lesson. He flashes back to those brutal training days and braces for a real fight. He claims he's finally mastered the absolute basics of her style. With a cocky smile, he asks her to show him the next move. She remembers what a monster he was. That brat surpassed her after seeing her moves just once. Because of that, she had to push herself in brutal, real battles just to stay ahead, all to perfect her legendary style, the shadow dance. The old woman focuses, ready to clash, with her former student, using every ounce of her strength. They stare in dead silence, ready to end it all. He admits that he actually never hated her. Instead, he recalls her advice on how to completely shatter an opponent's spirit and will to fight. She stands stunned, unable to believe he remembers those exact words. With eyes burning with intensity, he lunges forward at terrifying speed. Baffled by his bizarre, unpredictable movement, she struggles to react. He strikes with an improvised weapon, but she dodges like a pro. Then, he strikes her perineal nerve again, paralyzing her leg completely. Akari and Katagiri watch the beatdown, stunned by the boy's insane power level. In a flash, he disarms her and catches the falling sword mid-air. Grasping the hilt tightly, he proves the tables have completely turned. He's in total control now. The old woman takes a slight cut to her neck, but leaps back just in time. Furious, she unleashes a wild, desperate storm of strikes. And trust me, you and I are going to be absolutely speechless once we see how this ends. He recognizes the Ivy technique, noting she has not lost her touch. That move requires joints that are extremely and incredibly loose tendons. Pay close attention here, because this is the lethal signature of a chorus agent, which makes her highly dangerous. But the boy decodes her attack patterns, preparing to strike back. She is shocked to see him recognize her most secret techniques. He mocks her, asking what she will do now that her identity has been exposed. The mercenary stays quiet, wondering how on earth this boy became so powerful. Then, she remembers the past, seeing his potential to become Nightshape. With her sharp instincts pushed to the limit, the old woman prepares for the worst. Realizing he is a massive threat, she feels like the person standing before her is a true battle-hungry demon. She finally understands that he is the exact same beast she has been hunting for years. The agent decides to unleash her true dance, faster and more beautiful than ever. She moves with a lethal grace, like if she were dancing in a field of spider lilies. With a fierce gaze, she unleashes her ultimate move to end this Prider lilies, and one Avreds alles is non. Battle. The protagonist recognizes Lyre's signature technique, the shadow dance. He knows this is the ultimate move of his former master, so he braces himself. Akari and Katagiri watch in absolute terror at the sheer speed and ferocity of the attack. The boy focuses, telling himself not to be fooled by the trajectory, but to follow the blade's tip. Do not blink here. With superhuman speed, he dodges and deflects the blows with his bare hands, moving incredibly fast, becoming almost invisible to the human eye. Despite his immense skill, he knows he cannot afford a single mistake. The mercenary's blade grazes him, but he keeps fighting without losing focus. He deeply regrets not having his original body, since she would have never touched him. Suddenly, he realizes the blade was poisoned, and he suspected she would have a trick up her sleeve, since the red spider lily is highly toxic. The old woman reassures him, saying the toxin only causes muscle paralysis. Then she reveals another poisonous flower, the amaryllis, which she uses for her secret attacks. With her opponent paralyzed, she approaches to deliver the final blow. The boy feels his legs give out and collapses, completely paralyzed. The agent sees her golden opportunity and prepares to strike with an air of absolute victory. She unleashes her shadow dance again, launching a relentless combo of strikes, a flawless attack designed to finish him off, leaving absolutely no room for defense. Her sword lunges straight at our protagonist, who lies completely defenseless on the ground. With a triumphant smile, the old woman believes she has won the battle, but the boy surprises her yet again and manages to dodge the fatal blow. Shocked, the mercenary cannot believe he dodged her ultimate move. She stares in disbelief, unable to understand how he could move that fast. A demonic shadow rises behind our protagonist, revealing his true, dark, and terrifying nature. The boy grabs the mercenary by the neck and slams her into the ground with all his strength. Furious, he proves that the tables have completely turned. The old woman groans in pain, stunned by this incredibly sudden turn in the battle. Her sword falls and rolls across the floor, stopping right at his feet. He then picks up his former master's weapon with utter contempt. Without a second's hesitation, he pierces her chest, ending this fight forever. The agent looks at him with shock and a deep sense of respect in her final moments of life. She accepts her defeat before the student who surpassed her. He tells her that not even with time could she catch up. She sadly says they will meet in hell. What an incredible story you and I just witnessed. She promises to wait for him at the Sanzu River for one final rematch, saying that blooming in red is a beautiful sight. Meanwhile, Akari and Katagiri watch the scene, completely shocked and left utterly speechless. The boy staggers up, feeling the heavy effects of the poison surging through his body. He spits the toxin onto the floor, trying to recover. After that brutal fight, Katagiri rushes over to ask if he is all right or if he was affected by the toxin. The protagonist admits he is struggling, having only delayed the poison with his breathing. He used a tactical technique to control his pulse in this extreme situation. The bodyguard offers to call an underground doctor allied with the Shido group, but the boy refuses, saying a poison user always carries the antidote. He searches the fallen enemy's gear, finding exactly what he needs. Holding a pocket watch, he announces he has found the next clue. He believes this item will reveal much more about his enemies and show him once and for all who wants him dead and why. Now, we head back to the Shido mansion, where a heavy, dead silence reigns. Katagiri looks at Akari with deep concern and intense admiration. A medical kit, an open first aid kit, lies on the floor, overflowing with supplies as she carefully wraps her protector's wounds. Once she finishes, she whispers that this will have to do for now. He gently asks if she is all right. He even suggests she forget this whole mess. But after witnessing that brutal clash, Katagiri knows this guy is dangerous. He is definitely not normal. Now, watch closely, because this crazy battle totally shattered any expectations we had. Feeling completely powerless to protect her, the bodyguard frustratedly admits he cannot keep her safe alone. Akari stares at him with a heavy heart, knowing he did his best, but the guard keeps pushing. He warns that survival is not enough. The threat remains, and he begs her to run far away. She needs to hide until the dust settles. Suddenly, our main character chimes in, saying running is actually smart. Startled, the guard asks how he sneaked in without making a sound. The atmosphere turns cold instantly. He locks eyes with the girl in absolute silence before delivering a harsh truth. She is no ordinary girl. She is the true daughter of the legendary boss Shido, and that massive back tattoo proves her heavy bloodline. A dark, violent legacy is literally carved into her skin, acting like a curse she can never escape. Furious, the guard snaps, telling him to back off. But our lead drops a massive bomb. He found the client who hired the killers. Honestly, you and I are probably just as shocked as they are. He explained how he hacked the pocket watch data to unmask the mastermind behind the hits. Smirking confidently, he asks if they want to know the culprit. Losing her patience, Akari demands the name. He finally pulls out a photo of Kuroi, a highly influential, high-ranking sub-boss in Shido's syndicate. The guard screams in total disbelief, but Akari quietly reveals how powerful Kuroi really is. Her father handpicked him because of his genius at managing their underground black market operations. By running casinos and underground fight clubs, he brought in millions in dirty cash. Despite being an outsider, his climb to the absolute top of the family was guaranteed. Key figures he got greedy and struck early, then exposes the deadly mercenary group Kuroi hired. The Fearsome Garden. Kuroi partnered with this lethal syndicate to wipe out Boss Shido and all veteran leadership. His plot included killing the young heiress to seize complete control. His ultimate goal? The throne. He wanted to use the family wealth to rule the underworld, protected by the garden's shadow. But Key makes his own motives clear. He is only here to crush that group completely. Now that the dark truth is out, he confronts Akari. What is her move? Will she keep running? Will she hide from the deadly shadow following her? She clenches her fists, fighting her inner doubts. But summoning every ounce of courage, she stands tall and tells him to stop talking trash. She has absolutely no intention of running. Her guard tries to stop her, but she is resolved. She thanks her bodyguard for his loyalty, but she is choosing her own path now. No more running. She will find the monster who murdered her family. Running away like a coward is not the Shido way. Key grins, genuinely impressed. Trust me, you and I are about to see her unleash absolute hell. She tells him running was never an option. She knows their empire was built on blood and crime. If she has to pay for those sins, she will, but she refuses to surrender to a coward. Highly amused and impressed, Key acknowledges her incredible spirit. Then, she demands to know his name. He simply introduces himself as Key, warning that keeping his true identity secret protects them both. Since her guard is out, Akari officially hires Key to be the lethal weapon she needs. Her price? She promises to help him dismantle the entire garden organization using her clan's resources. Key grins, completely satisfied with this deal. The stage is set for his ultimate revenge. He gets total access to everything the Shido clan owns, their massive underground intelligence network, and endless funding. Think about it, connections stretching deep into the criminal underworld, political circles, and massive corporate sectors. Everything is now at his disposal. There is no better weapon to tear down the garden. And, with a handshake, their unlikely alliance begins. Let's see how they execute their grand revenge. Meanwhile, in a luxury office, Kuroi stares out at the city lights, wondering why his assassins are completely silent. Let's dive in together as he interrogates a hooded, blonde-haired kid about his thoughts on Leoris. Revealing icy blue eyes, he introduces himself as Campanula, responding with a cold, incredibly sarcastic tone. When Karoi demands to know where Lias is, the blonde kid snaps back with pure disrespect. Babysitting that crazy old hag isn't his job. Karoi figures she just got sick of dealing with a schoolboy. Suddenly, a gunshot blasts into the wall, startling the kid. Karoi completely loses it, screaming at him to shut up. He tells him to stop playing around, suggesting she was wiped out. Campanula just mocks his weak power. They think they are top-tier agents, but Kuroki cuts him off, fiercely scolding the young assassin. In a blink, the kid teleports behind him, holding a blade to his throat. Kuroki freezes at that terrifying speed. The young mercenary's sheer boldness is shocking. He warns Kuroki not to forget they only cooperate for the garden. He makes it clear that the funeral flowers aren't their pawns. Terrified, Kuroki quickly apologizes to stay alive. After leaving a tiny warning scratch, the blonde tells him to watch his mouth, stepping back completely unbothered. Kuroi glares at him, a mix of panic and murderous rage. Meanwhile, the young agent leans back in pure disgust. Smug as ever, Kuroi decides that some schoolgirl's presence won't change their ultimate master plan at all. Watch closely, because those annoying executives are gone, leaving their path to the Shidu clan thrown wide open. He will use that massive power to rule the underworld. With a wicked grin, Campanula promises to finish this mission. Everything for the garden. 2 days later, we cut to an underground casino packed with high-rolling gamblers. Pure luxury and wild excitement fill this flashy place. Roulette wheels spin endlessly while dealers slide the cards. Adrenaline is thick in the air. A wealthy guy celebrates a massive win right next to a gorgeous woman. An elegant hostess welcomes a new group. Right then, our handsome main character enters, wearing an absolutely flawless suit. He arrives with Akari and her guard, scanning the massive hall with an incredibly cold, calculating gaze. Taking in every detail, he confidently smiles, declaring that the real show is about to start right now. This is step 1 of their massive counterattack against the garden. Slot machines and roulette wheels keep ringing out. Cards are shuffled as this high-stakes power battle begins. Millionaires enjoy their night alongside stunning female companions. Our main character and Akari walk right through the main floor, immediately drawing eyes from everyone around. An elegant woman spots the young girl, whispering to her partner that she looks totally out of place there. I know what you're thinking, she looks way too young for this. Meanwhile, Katajiri grumbles about them standing out. But our lead totally ignores him. With a satisfied smirk, he promises that their plan is working out perfectly. Flashback to the Shidu mansion, where they meticulously plotted out every single detail of this risky, brilliant play. The bodyguard and Akari listen to our hero's instructions. Annoyed, Katajiri calls him an idiot for risking her like this. He doesn't get why she must walk into enemy lines, but our brilliant young strategist has the perfect answer. The guard insists he could have taken out Kuroki alone, but our lead explains the heavy consequences. If they act recklessly and kill Kuroki without an heir ready, the massive Shidu group will completely collapse. Realizing the logic, Katajiri goes quiet, clearly frustrated by how incredibly fragile this entire situation actually is. The lead proposes that Akari publicly challenge the traitor and reclaim her rightful throne in front of everyone. That way, the syndicate will see who the true heir is, and the men will follow her without hesitation. With the strategy set, Akari orders her guard to immediately contact an expensive high-end dress boutique. She needs to look absolutely stunning for the most critical night of her life. Our lead watches her with pride. He smiles, satisfied by her incredible courage. Meanwhile, over in the casino's exclusive lounge, a subordinate approaches. He whispers to Kuroki that the Shidu heiress has just arrived, leaving the traitor completely shocked. It infuriates him to see her alive with 2 guards. Campanula offers to end her with a creepy smile. But Kuroki stops him instantly, forbidding any chaos in front of his elite guests and high rollers. He orders her treated like any ordinary guest, with no special privileges. The young killer nods, deeply annoyed. Both leave the private room. Outside, Katajiri confirms to our hero that the rumors about Kuroki were true. He's a traitor. Smiling, our main character explains the next move to lure him out of hiding for good. Stick with me to the end, she smiles fiercely, fully prepared for the final showdown. Alright, let's watch how she decides to have some fun first, approaching a blackjack table to play with the others. The dealer apologizes, warning her that this table has an incredibly high minimum bet and explaining it is not for everyone. The lowest bet starts at 1 million yen. But then, our main character pops open a briefcase stuffed with cold cash. That mountain of cash stuns everyone. Akari just shrugs, saying she absolutely hates playing for mere pennies and scraps. Apologizing instantly, the dealer invites her to take a seat and kicks off the high-tension game. He shuffles the deck with serious skill, setting up the next round. As he deals, he wishes her good luck. And just like that, the game is on. An hour later, the tension is suffocating, and the other players are sweating bullets. Akari has piled up a massive mountain of chips, leaving everyone in the dust. The dealer finally calls for last bets. He reveals his cards, looking completely stressed out. Akari has exactly 21, securing yet another massive win for herself. Panicking, the dealer cannot believe this girl's insane run of luck. He flips his next card with pure dread. The house busts yet again. In a cold sweat, the dealer can barely hold the deck with his shaking hands. With a quick snap of his fingers, our protagonist signals her. She drops an 8 of hearts onto the table, landing another flawless blackjack. That perfect combo of an ace and a 10 guarantees her an instant, sweet victory. The other players erupt in anger, accusing Akari of dirty cheating, while our main character just smiles, totally satisfied. He knows blackjack is never just about blind luck. It relies heavily on having a brilliant, calculated strategy. By counting cards, you assign a specific value to each one to calculate your exact odds of winning. Now pay attention here, because what Key is doing right now goes way beyond that famous MIT legend. He memorizes every single discarded card with a precision that completely defies human logic without making one mistake. With every new card revealed, he instantly recalculates the table's exact odds. Then, he feeds the play to Akari using nearly invisible light signals. Compared to an actual battlefield, cracking 6 decks of cards is a total walk in the park, requiring insane mental speed only Nightshade possesses. The terrified dealer sweeps the table while she keeps dropping even bigger, bolder bets without a single doubt. With a cold stare, she says she is not done having fun and demands another card. The man is shaking. Knowing another loss will cost him everything, he is terrified his bosses will blame him for ruining the casino. Suddenly, a voice cuts through the game as Kuroki himself steps up to face our female lead. She glares at him with pure disgust, mocking how long he took. He fakes a smile, claiming if he had known, he would have rolled out the red carpet. Kuroki bows with a smug sneer, showing zero actual respect. Kataguri orders him to cut the cheap drama, but the traitor completely ignores him, staring right at Akari. He eyes her massive stack of chips, praising her crazy lucky streak and offering to cash her out fully. But he wants her gone. And look at this. He actually throws in extra cash so she goes play somewhere else. Akari glares right through him, instantly rejecting his insulting offer and calling him a pathetic, backstabbing rat. A parasite who crawled into her father's empire to get fat, only ruling because his partners back him up. Hiroki loses his cool for a split second, letting his absolute rage and deep hatred slip right through. The entire room starts whispering as they realize she is actually the daughter of the former clan leader. They warn her not to play with fire. Akari just smiles, stands up, and prepares for the real showdown. She declares that cards bore her now, demanding something far more exciting, a direct, life-or-death challenge. She is talking about the club's main event, and Kuroki gets it instantly, flashing a wicked, twisted grin. He knows she means the Scarlet Cage, that brutal underground coliseum where people fight to the death for amusement. A merciless arena built for the sick amusement of the wealthy. But Akari proposes a deal that changes everything. Each side sends one warrior into the ring, last man standing wins. Kuroki tries to act like it is nothing. He claims there are no fights scheduled tonight, but she cuts him off, revealing her biggest wager yet. She puts up her father's entire inheritance in exchange for this entire casino, leaving Kuroki absolutely speechless. An incredibly bold move. The entire future of the Shido clan is at stake, and the news spreads instantly. Everyone braces for the most brutal clash of the year. Kuroki knows backing down would ruin his reputation forever. Akari mocks him, daring him not to run. Now tell me, do you think this coward actually accepts the challenge? Get ready with me today. We see Kuroki backed into a corner, grit his teeth, and accept an extreme bet just for pride. They lock eyes with brutal, suffocating tension, officially sealing the deal for the most important fight of their lives. Our main character watches the whole scene play out with a deeply satisfied look and absolute confidence in his eyes. He knows his plan is working perfectly, and the enemy walked straight into his trap as the VIP door slowly shuts. Everything is sealed, and preparations for the big event begin. Over in the security room, his ally watches with a smirk. The cameras catch every single second of the conversation between Akari and our main character. This young mercenary is clearly enjoying himself. Pay close attention here because this guy is getting ready to enjoy the most violent, brutal show of the entire night. Two massive guards stand watch at the entrance of the underground coliseum. The cages are ready, and the crowd is begging for the start. The spotlights suddenly flash on, and the crowd goes completely wild at the promise of a truly unforgettable show. The audience screams and cheers, absolutely desperate for the heavy dose of extreme violence that is about to explode in the arena. The announcer steps into the ring as a bright spotlight shines down on the center stage, welcoming everyone to the venue. Welcome to the Scarlet Cage, the lawless underground ring, where he suddenly announces an unscheduled surprise battle. He promises the lucky crowd that they are about to witness a truly unique, next-level showdown unlike anything before. In the red corner, he introduces the undefeated, undisputed champion of this bloody arena, Takshi Kinju, the absolute crusher of rivals. A giant, feared and loved by the entire fanbase, and right there in the blue corner, he announces the mysterious, unknown challenger. Our main character enters the arena wearing a sharp, black suit, looking incredibly serious and completely cold-focused. The announcer introduces him directly and simply as the mysterious fighter known only by his codename, K. The crowd mocks his slim build, doubting he can even survive one single minute against the deadly, undefeated champion. Kataguri nervously asks if this young guy can actually hold his ground against such a monstrous seasoned fighter. He knows what our main character is capable of, but the champion looks like an absolute unstoppable brick wall. Completely calm, our guy replies that he is not actually a professional fighter at all. The referee steps in. He makes it clear that weapons are banned, but everything else goes. Both rivals size each other up. I bet you felt that sudden tension too, because before the referee even finishes speaking, the champion lunges forward. He throws a devastating punch, but our main character blocks it effortlessly with his arms, shocking the entire crowd. The crowd roars, thinking the challenger froze out of sheer fear. They cheer for Kinju to crush him quickly. The scene shows the giant unleashing a relentless storm of wild, heavy punches aimed straight at our hero's face. Kuroki watches the fight while smoking with total disdain, but he notices the kid is masterfully deflecting every heavy blow. Using precise micro-movements, he blocks the furious assault without backing down even a single inch on the canvas. And the most shocking part? He stays in the exact spot where the fight started without even messing up his hair. Kuroki finds the trick amusing, but knows it won't be enough to win. He turns to Akari to remind her of something. He warns her about the dark underworld, where formal martial arts are useless and only raw, brutal violence rules. The champion keeps charging with sheer rage, yet he is utterly unable to land even one clean hit on our hero. Kuroki insists that raw physical power decides who wins, while touching Akari's shoulder in an incredibly disrespectful way. In a highly possessive tone, he warns her that once this is over, he will have to teach her a painful lesson. With a twisted smirk, he says even pets need discipline, laughing to himself about the total control he thinks he has. Akari calls him a pathetic clown and tells him to his face that he is nothing but a lapdog for the organization. Utterly disgusted, she says his extreme arrogance only brings her deep contempt and absolute, stomach-churning repugnance. Kuroki completely loses his temper, furiously crushing his cigarette. He screams at Kinju to end this fight immediately. But suddenly, he realizes that something is seriously wrong with the performance of his star, undefeated champion. The giant is completely exhausted, drenched in sweat, and breathless. Our main character just glares back, mocking him. Kataguri watches in utter disbelief as Kinju gasps for air despite being the one throwing all the punches. Our guy shamelessly provokes him, asking if he can't even lift a single finger to defend himself anymore. With a precise, devastating strike, he hits the champion's jaw with full force. The giant collapses instantly. That brutal, direct blow knocks him out cold. Total silence fills the arena as the giant body lies completely still. And that is how it ends, a brutal victory you and I will never forget. The referee begins the count. Come with me to see this epic moment, where Katagiri wonders how it ended so fast, as the kid reveals his cold strategy. To beat a beast, you have to break its fangs. The guard is totally clueless, but the tension in the air is real. Suddenly, the referee collapses onto the ground, leaving everyone frozen. That is when Katagiri finally realizes what our main character was actually after. In the middle of absolute chaos, Campanula appears out of nowhere and starts knocking out everyone in the room. A mysterious shadow glides through the crowd, dropping every single man, with an ease that is truly terrifying. Nobody knows what is happening as panic takes over the arena. This young mercenary is moving just like a ghost. He destroys anyone who crosses his path, dropping another of Kuroki's thugs with a brutal, crushing kick. Within seconds, almost everyone is lying unconscious on the floor. The arena has turned into a complete disaster. With bodies scattered everywhere, our main character jokes that the casino is not being very hospitable to its guests today. Annoyed, he glares at the young agent and demands to know what the hell he thinks he is doing. Campanula replies that he just put them to sleep, introducing himself as the cleanup guy who is ready to act. He steps into the ring to complete his true mission, refusing to let amateurs ruin his script. The kid is confused by that script talk, but the blonde explains that winning now would ruin all his hard work. Pointing to the unconscious announcer on the canvas, he begins explaining his plan to clean up this entire mess. Watch closely, he wants to make it look like this fight never happened to keep their plans perfectly intact. With no other choice, Kuroki agrees and lets the young mercenary take over as the tension spikes with a twisted smile. Offering a fake apology, Campanula leaps forward with a devastating kick aimed straight at our main character. Our protagonist instantly recognizes that lethal strike aimed at his carotid artery. This guy is extremely dangerous. The blonde realizes his opponent is tough and asks about his style. Silat is a traditional martial art, originating from Southeast Asia with many styles. Because of its incredible combat effectiveness, it has been adopted by elite special forces worldwide. It features hundreds of deadly techniques ranging from close-quarters combat to weapon use and joint locks. It is a brutally versatile style. With his eyes glowing in a deep crimson hue, our protagonist prepares to clash, remembering those brutal training sessions where he completely mastered this martial art. In a flash, he steps forward and delivers a brutal open palm strike, sending the shocked young agent flying backward from the sheer force. He coughs in pain, staring in sheer shock and fury as a trail of blood leaks from his lips. While trying to recover, I bet you did not expect that one-shot knockdown either. Even Katagiri is completely stunned. Kuroki and Akari watch in absolute shock. Our main character's speed and power are completely superhuman. He calmly asks if his opponent belongs to the dreaded Funeral Flower Syndicate. The guy confirms it, introducing himself as Campanula, the Flower of Gratitude. With a smug grin, he thanks him for the entertainment at the end of a dull job. Both mercenaries lock eyes on the canvas, eager to kick off round 2. Our protagonist smiles, ready for the next clash. With a wild look, he promises he can finally fight without holding back. The surviving spectators, who are still awake, watch this shocking twist in dead silence. Katagiri cannot believe his eyes. He is left completely speechless by this display, while Kuroki and Akari monitor their every single move. Our antagonist quietly admits he never wants to take another brutal palm strike again. Campanula taunts him with a smirk, ready for a deathmatch. Our protagonist knows he needs to decode his style. The young mercenary mocks him, noting that the entire arena has suddenly gone quiet. He asks if he ran out of ideas for his performance and openly dares him to strike. Charging forward at insane speeds, he throws a brutal right hook. Our main character is stunned by his incredible swiftness, barely dodging the blow by a hair. But the blonde does not stop, unleashing a barrage of deadly strikes. Both trade heavy blows, proving they are top-tier fighters. Our protagonist calmly analyzes his opponent's movements and spots a strange detail while dodging those furious attacks. His speed is crazy, but his path is highly predictable to a seasoned warrior. So they pose no real threat. And trust me, you and I know this fight is just getting started. Pay attention here, because we are looking at a threat light years beyond the refined style of his old master, Lycoris. Campanula wonders why none of his strikes are landing. He attacks furiously, but our main character dodges every single move with absolute ease. Suddenly, the young agent strikes his opponent's arm with a swift palm strike. He leaps back to prep his next move, stunned by the boy's skill level. Meanwhile, Katajuri cheers. But this clash is far from over. He realizes he successfully struck the radial nerve in the upper arm. With a smug grin, he recognizes Silat's gunting technique, but notices that instead of using his forearm, the kid used his pisiform bone to deliver the strike. Shocked, he wonders if this is the legendary method of defeat. The main character confirms it and casually asks if this move has become trendy lately, explaining that it was a forbidden art meant to eliminate targets erased from history, and the last master who used it died 17 years ago, leaving the style completely forgotten. With a heavy kick, he charges Campanula, who barely dodges with incredible agility. The young agent counters with a palm strike of his own, but it's completely blocked. Our protagonist stops the strike with his bare arm, absorbing the heavy impact, stunned by his opponent's brute force and high skill level. Flashy with an excited grin, Campanula laughs and calls him extremely interesting. Don't blink now, because we're about to see the next clash, as our boy realizes he can't underestimate this guy. They trade brutal blows and lightning-fast kicks in a tight battle. The young mercenary moves so fast he leaves after images to confuse him, but our main character refuses to fall for the trick, dodging the incoming attacks effortlessly. Campanula knows elite martial artists always read their opponent's split-second tells to anticipate their next move, blocking or dodging with ease. Otherwise, keeping up with these hyper-fast trays of milliseconds would be totally impossible. But he notices this guy is dodging the strikes the exact instant they fly toward him. Campanula wonders if his reaction speed exceeds human limits. Suddenly, our main character surprises him with a devastating aerial attack. Flaunting a confident smile, he aims to end this combat once and for all. With an explosive shift, he slams him into the ground with crushing force. The young agent crashes hard, but springs right back up. Katajuri screams Kei's name, terrified of how this battle will end. Akiri watches in dead silence, completely shocked by the sheer brutality of their clash. Hiroi leans in, dying to see who wins this assassin duel, and honestly, you and I are doing the exact same thing. He boasts that this is true underworld violence, where in the end, everything comes down to who survives. With the victory, Akiri calls him a coward, reminding him he is all talk, and warns he will pay dearly for this. Meanwhile, our hero stands his ground, looking totally fresh and ready to keep fighting without breaking a single drop of sweat. The two combatants lock eyes once again right in the ruined arena. Our protagonist then reveals he figured out Campanula's special ability, pointing out that the secret behind his power is artificially enhanced nerves. Grinning with excitement, the blonde confirms it, boasting he is one of a kind, and explaining his nervous system was hyper-developed using stem cells. His axons are significantly thicker, and his nerves are way tougher than any normal human. The hero now understands why his reaction speed is so absurdly broken. Campanula brags that while normal humans take 0.2 of a second to react, he does it in 0.02 absolute cat-like speed. To him, the entire world appears to move frame by frame in slow motion. Our protagonist then deduces that his fast palm strike utilizes that exact same trick. Akiri and her bodyguard watch, completely dumbfounded by the revelation. The blonde confesses his proprioception is incredibly sharp because of this, letting him feel every muscle spasm and focus his force into a single point, just like the Chinese martial art, Fa Jin. He boasts that mastering such a strike is as natural as breathing, and to top it off, he mocks Dahlia and Lior for failing to surpass human limits despite all their training. The protagonist nods, but asks if having such insane high-speed vision causes constant daily migraines. Campanula is left completely taken aback by the bizarre question. Then, our hero asks how he watches movies, wondering if they just look like choppy slideshows. The blonde admits it sucks, but stick with me, because Keith is fully prepared to end this fight right now. He accepts, proudly declaring he is ready to launch his ultimate, final attack. Come along with me to see this epic showdown. A massive red aura wraps around our main character as he prepares to unleash his ultimate move. The young rival accepts the challenge with a smile, promising to watch his final moments until the very end. From afar, Akiri and Katajiri watch the intense pressure between them explode. Kei realizes that his enemy has insanely fast reflexes. Because of that, any standard attack he tries to land will be blocked or deflected in an instant. Our hero knows direct attacks stand absolutely zero chance against that kind of beastly speed. That means there is only one path to victory right now. His sole shot is a precise counterattack, timed perfectly with the impact. But the young agent smiles because that is exactly what he wanted him to think. Campanula mocks him, saying he got overconfident after landing that last strike. He then reveals he took the hit on purpose to prove he can easily react to the fastest counterattack imaginable. Our main character is caught completely off guard, failing to block blazing fast blow. A brutal punch directly to the face sends him crashing backward. His enemy stands tall. Pay close attention here, because this villain thinks he has total control. He loves watching his opponents cling to the false hope he feeds them. With a devastating kick, he launches our hero straight into the air. The blonde agent screams at him to accept his end, unleashing everything he has. But somehow, our hero manages to stay on his feet after taking that massive blow. The blonde taunts him to try another counterattack, declaring this will be his final moments. The boy just stares back with a highly serious, determined look on his face. Campanula gets confused, seeing him completely frozen, asking why he won't strike. But he quickly decides it doesn't matter, since a counter at this distance is completely useless. Fully convinced the battle is already over, he throws his ultimate blow to finish him off. But at the very last second, our hero's body shifts subtly to the side. The young mercenary is left completely speechless, unable to grasp what just happened. You see, K's counterattack started before the punch was even thrown. The rival's hyper-reflexes only work against threats he can see with his own eyes. The exact moment the attacks connect, the boy's fingertips gently tap the space between the blonde's eyebrows. This is the secret Lankamati technique known as the poison needle, a strike to the trigeminal nerve that completely blocks all nerve signals. But when the target is in a state of absolute concentration, it acts like a toxin that destroys. I know what you are thinking. Is this the end of his master plan? The boy smiles, asking him how he likes the ending. Immediately after, our hero slams a lethal palm strike into his chest. The impact is so massive that the blonde gets blasted backward, crashing violently onto the hard ground below. The blonde agent coughs up blood, completely dazed by this sudden twist. The concrete shatters into 1,000 pieces from the devastating force of the impact. The crowd watches in total shock, unable to believe what they just witnessed. Smashed on the ground, the young mercenary screams that it is impossible, demanding answers. Our hero calmly replies that he only touched him, speaking the absolute truth. In reality, Ki never actually attacked him directly. He simply braced himself in a firm stance, securing his upper body with his back and spine before driving his forearms forward, turning himself into a solid human stake. It is like a weightlifter tensing their entire body to support massive weight. The athlete becomes an unbreakable pillar, and Ki used that exact logic to turn his own body into a stake driven deep into the ground. He completely blocked all the raw force Campanula threw at him, sending the massive kinetic energy bouncing straight back into the blonde's own body. In simple terms, it was as if he lunged at full speed directly onto a buried spear. This is the elite level of the ancient technique, borrowing enemy force to counterattack. Our hero stands tall, looking down coldly at his defeated opponent. Completely broken, the blonde asks if he used his own power to crush him. The young mercenary remembers the talk about nerves and realizes it was all a clever distraction. Our hero calmly admits he was only talking to stall for time. Writhing on the ground, the enemy confesses it was a brilliant move that completely ruined his script. Ki reminds him that All bad guys eventually bite the dust. And trust me, you and I know destiny never forgives arrogant people. It was simply his turn to face defeat. Summoning his very last breath, the defeated mercenary actually thanks Kay for this. Let's dive right into this crazy clash. With a twisted smirk, he says this boring world suddenly feels a little more interesting with his opponent standing right there. With one last smile on his face, the young agent closes his eyes forever. Then, he turns around, telling the guy to finally rest in peace. But right in that very instant, the boy notices Kuroki moving. Don't blink, because he spins around to the shocking sight of Kuroki taking Akari hostage. With a sinister grin, Kuroki points his gun directly at Akari. Key gets completely enraged seeing his boss threatened like this. Wild.